everyone, and thanks for listening to the Quality Hub, chatting with ISO experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and today I'm here with Patrick Gagner, cyber consultant here at Core Business Solutions. So glad to have you on the podcast, Pat.
Glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, I think this is your first time on, and it's really exciting. We're trying to get as many people as we can. And today we're actually going to be discussing ISO 20001, which is something that's right up your alley, being a cyber consultant. But before we begin, let's hear a little bit about Pat's history and journey. Pat, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My background has been mostly in the supercomputing industry. I had a stint in the railway engineering as well, but I started with Core Business Solutions in 2018. Before that, I've had ISO experience. Even before ISO 9001 started in 1987, we had our quality programs before we became ISO certified.
Wow, so that's you've been doing it quite a long time then, even before ISO.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we certainly appreciate having you on today and you being willing to come on. I guess we'll get started and we'll talk a little bit about ISO 20000-1. So, Pat, what is ISO 20000-1? And also, why is it important for organizations providing IT services?
That's a great question. ISO 20000-1 was designed for IT service organizations to establish a baseline compliance of an IT management system. We'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure.
Okay.
But it has been utilized by other service-based companies. Today, it's not just restricted to IT services, but majority of the companies becoming certified are IT service organizations.
Okay. But what are some key requirements for organization to achieve ISO 20000-1 certification?
So one of the first things is defining the service management scope. That very familiar or very similar to 9001, defining the quality scope. Here we're defining the service management system scope.
So the scope of what part of the business is going to be looked at through this management system, right?
Exactly. What are we certifying?
Okay.
The other thing, too, like any ISO system, there are objective metrics that are measured and kept track of. If you're not measuring it, you're not managing it.
No, you're not.
A key piece of this, so you mentioned key requirements. One of the key requirements is having a service portfolio. And a service portfolio is this. It's your capabilities, the services that you plan to provide your customers, having them defined and really broken down into what we call service catalogs. Each service having its own catalog that describes that service, such as IT help desk would be a service that's provided.
Okay.
Or maybe project management.
Anything else?
Yeah, this standard does have like three components to it that are required. One is service assurance, and that's really making sure that your service availability is present, that you're identifying risks related to your service and carrying those out, monitoring them on a continuous basis. Another one is continuity management.
All right.
Meaning, what are you going to do if a disaster happens? How are you going to keep those services in play and that you keep your customers happy?
Well, I'm sure something when you're dealing with IT, a lot of it we're looking at network, internet. So unlike if you lost power at a manufacturing facility, what do you have a backup? Do you have a backup generator? What if some of these things go down? What if your servers go down? What if the internet goes down? All that kind of thing. That type of continuity has got to be really important when you're looking at these kind of services.
That is. And if you're a hosting company, hosting customer data, what they're going to care about is the accessibility to their data.
Yeah, be able to access it. Yep.
Yep. So that is very, very important. Another component, like I call this the third component, is having an information security system in place.
Okay.
Which makes sense. You're making sure that your employees are following an acceptable use of assets policy, that they're doing the right things. You're managing your assets that pertain to your services, and that you have a way to process incidences if they do occur. Of course, no one wants security incidences to happen.
No.
But you should be equipped to handle them.
And this sort of goes hand in hand with 27,001 as well, correct?
Absolutely. I would even recommend, if someone's thinking about 20,000-1 and to look into 27,001 as well, we can build those systems together because of the requirement 20,000-1 has on the information security system. So just for background, 27,001 is an information security management system based upon 93 controls and such. But yeah, they do go hand in hand.
So your company may need 27,001, but not 20,001. But if you have 20,000-1, you're probably going to want 27,001, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Anything else as far as those key things that you're looking at? You said you had 3 or 4?
Yeah, one thing that is a little bit different is there's a requirement for service reporting, meaning having a method to keep track of your services that you're delivering from a capacity standpoint, budget standpoint, and just monitoring your service performance through reporting methodology.
So more than just your basic metrics of how we're doing, you really need to look at how we're budgeting it, how you're keeping track of the delivery capacity, everything.
Absolutely.
A little more detailed in those KPIs. Okay.
Right.
All right. So how does 20,000-1 help organizations improve their service delivery and overall customer satisfaction?
Well, it does provide a foundational structure for organizations to continuously improve their service delivery.
Okay.
It does this through requiring key practices that helps the organization be intentional about meeting and improving their customer delivery requirements. Some key practices, what we think about with key practices, that they're proactive instead of reactive. And this comes from our risk management methodology, that what risks do we know about, and let's go after some of those so that they don't become reality.
Yeah. And you're looking at it, how is that going to affect delivering it to the customer, not just a risk to your business, where sometimes your risk management, you're really looking at how it can affect your business. It's more looking at how it's going to affect your customer in a broader standpoint, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So what are the benefits of ISO 20001 certification for small and medium-sized businesses? That's what we work with here at CORE, primarily small and medium-sized businesses. What are those benefits?
Well, one thing it does for the small to medium-sized businesses, you're being intentional.
Okay.
Having an intentional method and oversight over those services that you deliver.
Okay.
So intentionality is one thing that you definitely gain. You can increase customer satisfaction through those services you're providing. Creates an effective means to address service incidences and problems. It gives you the framework that if a problem comes up, you can address it accordingly.
Let me give a comparison here. In the past, we talked about what to do after a cybersecurity incident, which is a different thing. But we talk about an incident response plan. It's almost like that, where you're planning, okay, if and when something like this happens, we have a game plan for how to handle it, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. And there's some definition between incident and a problem. An incident is an event in time. A service incident is, such as if you didn't get a report to a customer or you didn't meet a milestone, that's an incident. If it is occurring regularly, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so I kind of associate that in 9001 with nonconformances and corrective actions. With a problem, you're going to drill down to that root cause and you're going to take care of it so it doesn't happen again.
So let's say customers aren't able to access their information in a timely manner. Maybe you need faster bandwidth, more bandwidth. Maybe you need to replace some servers or move them to another place. Finding that root cause. Do you still look at it sort of like from the 4 whys or how many whys, where you count it back to see that?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, as many whys as it takes. And you're correcting the problems you have control over. You don't want to do the 5 whys until you can blame someone else. A lot of times we do that, that's a supplier. Well, what in our system can help alleviate that problem? Or what in our system allowed that to happen? And what can we, maybe it is an outside vendor, but what can we do about it as well?
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that'd be the same kind of concept of, like you said, you're doing the why. You don't look from a quality management system. You're not looking at it as the person being the problem. You look at it when it's further back. Same way here. Maybe it's not an outsider. Don't initially blame. Okay, that's a subcontractor. There's a problem.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Anything else?
The part I like is having a proactive risk management system to identify, monitor, and reduce those potential issues.
Mm-hmm.
It costs you less to do prevention than it does to do the reaction to a problem. So risk management is a very large piece to, if you're not doing it today, that's something that will definitely be a benefit to the organization.
Mm-hmm. It's easier to buy the fire extinguisher or the sprinkler system than rebuild the whole building.
Absolutely. And then the last thing I would say, continuous improvement. The continuous improvement of your services is going to be customer facing. They're going to notice it. They're going to recommend you. You do good with one organization and it's going to affect others. A long time ago, I went through a service training and there was like a rule that if you have 5 customers that complained, they're going to complain to 11 customers. So now you have 55 people not recommending you. So it's good to be proactive and to continuously improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And that certainly is a main component to ISO standards.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we've started working with 20,000-1 and we're looking towards compliance or certification. What roles and responsibilities do top management have in maintaining that?
Well, really, top management has the ownership to ensure that the service management system conforms to the requirements of 20,000-1. That being said, there's a commitment to the service management system.
Mm-hmm.
Top management also helps define the service management system policy. Why does the system exist? And communicating that to the employees.
Would that be similar to a quality management policy with ISO 9001?
Absolutely. Same thing, but in the service realm.
Mm-hmm.
Same with this one is the service management objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Objectives, of course, are the metrics that we're keeping track of. I usually call them the vital signs. Go to the hospital. They'll monitor your blood pressure, your pulse, your oxygen level. There's probably 3 or 4 main items that the hospital monitors. Well, I see objectives as that same thing. What are the key indicators that our system is healthy?
That's a really good comparison. I like that.
And identifying roles and responsibilities. Of course, top management, they have their day-to-day work to do. And a lot of times what top management may do is identify what we call a management representative, a key person, a focal point that helps manage the system and keep them informed. There's other roles and responsibilities that they empower, such as who's doing document control, just like 9001, who's auditing, and that kind of thing. They should be involved in identifying the roles and responsibilities and empowering those folks to do their jobs.
And same thing, I would assume, where we really want that worker engagement as well from the people that actually provide the service in your system.
Yeah, and that's what you want is with service management system, you want your service delivery folks being engaged in the system. And if you have a culture like that, everyone just thrives, that the system works.
Absolutely.
Well, one other thing that top management is involved in is keeping informed of the major incidences, those customer-facing issues, and being well connected so that you're not blindsided with that phone call of a customer and you don't realize that they had an issue before and they just blindside you. And you don't want those conversations.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you don't. You want to, again, be proactive in that. And upper management really sets the tone for that, making sure that we're looking ahead.
Absolutely. And of course, the key piece is really communications. And I call this such as reporting on the performance of the service management system and the services through the management review meetings. That's where top management comes together. It can be once a year. It could be twice a year. It could be 4 times a year. Meeting monthly, there might not be enough content. You don't want that much content. Usually that means there's a lot of issues happening.
You need to have something to talk about from a perspective of, metrics as well. So
Absolutely.
sometimes doing the month-to-month might not be long enough to look at a trend.
Yep. So finding the right cadence for every organization is a little bit different. Depends how many moving parts you have going on, but have a cadence of when doing the management review and you talk about your system. You kind of put to the side the day-to-day activities and you think about the management system. How have we been doing over the last quarter or the last year? And what tweaks do we need? What improvements do we need to do?
Well, that certainly is a lot of things for them to take care of. Since you've been doing this a while, could you share some common challenges that organizations may face during the implementation of ISO 20001 and how they can overcome them?
One of the things that I notice with a lot of the implementations is not having the right people working on the project. Sometimes we have a group of people, but they might be the quality group of people that are, okay, we're just doing another ISO implementation. And so the 9001 folks will be a part of the meetings for 20,000-1. But the service management system, you should have some service folks in there.
Gotcha.
So, really the system is about the oversight of the service management system and the services and capabilities that we're monitoring, the performance and information security and the service continuity. So you'll want to definitely have part of the IT team involved in it. So that's one thing.
Okay. I can see where that could certainly be, hey, we'll just hand this over to people who handle 9001. They just have a few more things they need to look at. Well, that might not be their specialty or what they need to be paying attention to from a quality standpoint.
Right. And I've been in that boat. You're doing a great job with quality, and then they add on to your plate. Oh, here's another system for you to manage. And it's kind of out of your realm and you're uncomfortable with it. And so, basically, if you're that person, you just need to identify, okay, who do we need on the team? Subject matter experts, bottom line,
right?
To help with that, and that then it's pretty easy,
right?
The another thing that I see happening is having too many people involved in the project. It's kind of like you think the ship would sail faster and you could turn it faster and quicker with a lot of people, but not so much. Having the right number of people on a team to plan and implement the solution. And you don't want to take up a lot of people's time either with the implementation if you don't need to.
Right. What's the phrase? Many hands make light work, but there's also too many cooks in the kitchen. So you got to find that balance between those two, right?
Then that is a tender balance. And meetings could go along with if you try to have everyone interject. Having certain subject matter experts in is critical. It's kind of counterintuitive to the first one where having the right people in the project, but don't have too many people.
Gotcha.
Having it's great having points of contact that can go from what they've learned in consulting meetings and talking to individual contributors and that kind of thing and get feedback. But that's another sweet spot to try to dial in.
If people are using us to help them implement, you and other consultants are going to give some guidance to who might be good to be on those teams versus just, okay, well, this person's in IT, let's add them. Well, they might be a system administrator. They might not be the person, or I'm not saying a system administrator might not be somebody that does, but, they're just too busy taking care of everybody's, Outlook and Teams and problems like that. Are they the right person to have on this team, and we can help you dial that in?
Right. Yeah. But if they're connected with the person who can answer the question, they could take it back and work offline. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And the third thing that I find is just not setting enough time aside to complete and the planning and implementation of the project. Everyone's wearing multiple hats. We have our day jobs to do, and I get that. But a lot of times an organization will make a decision that we want to get certified, but understanding that it will take some time and effort to do it on their side of the fence.
Yeah.
And that's top management's responsibility is to identify those folks and provide them the resources, the time that they need to complete the project as well.
Well, that certainly is a lot of information about 20,000-1. Do you have anything else you want to share about the specific ISO standard with our listeners?
Well, I just want to reiterate one thing is that 20,000-1, although it was crafted for IT services and that there's organizations that we've worked with that have become 20,000-1 certified, maybe a staffing organization or, they have some other service that they provide, a training organization. There's organizations out there. You don't have to be an IT organization to get certified for the service management system. Mm-hmm. It'll help anyone's services.
That's great to know. So if you're looking at managing services, maybe this is the one for you, IT or otherwise, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, certainly do appreciate your help today, Pat. And this is a lot of good information, probably for people that are out there that are interested. Again, we can handle helping you get through that here at Core Business Solutions. You might actually be working directly with Pat if you come on and take on a project for ISO 20000-1 with Core Business Solutions. Well, we certainly appreciate you being here today, Pat, and thanks so much for all your information.
Well, I enjoyed our time as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And we want to thank everyone who's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative for you. Now, if you're looking for more information about Core Business Solutions, how we can help you with ISO certification or cybersecurity, even customized training, please email us at info@thecoresolution.com. You can also visit our website at www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, be sure to do so, and that way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day, everyone.